welcome to another episode of the NSA Houston Presidents Podcast, coming to you live from the Houston area, where we are interviewing presidents in really prominent organizations all over the city and really stretching across the United States a few times too, all in the effort to really serve up opportunities to members around the city that are looking for collaboration, connection, and what better way to do it than with the presidents strategically placed at the top that know what's going on. And I think you're going to really enjoy our guest. Ricardo is from the Houston Organizational Development Network, and I'll let him introduce himself. So Ricardo, go ahead and say hello to our members. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thank you very much, Megan, for having me here. And hello, everybody. Ricardo Mondardez here. I'm currently the president of the Houston Organizational Development Network, as Megan mentioned. I have been in that role for the last 5.5, 6 years, something like that, just before COVID. I was that lucky to have to deal with the effects of COVID in professional organizations, and I'm sure you had your first share of experience there, Megan. My background is I am an architect by formal training. Got my master's way back when in my hometown of Santiago, Chile. But as I was getting my master's, I discovered the works of a gentleman that to this day continues to be my mentor, my friend. And he created something called Ontological Design, which is a discipline that looks from the philosophical perspective, looks at how human beings reinvent ourselves. So if you think about change and transformation, this discipline in particular is very powerful to help you understand how that works in the long term. Like when we change agents, try to produce lasting change in organizations. So that's the methodology or philosophical framework that informs my work. So I went from Chile to Mexico to work as a management consultant because this discipline is applied to management consulting in the form that takes a different name, which is commitment-based management, which, if you think about it, is basically the way in which we do things within organizations, even within families. We have commitments to one another, and we act on the basis of the commitments that we have. So commitment-based management looks at what commitments do people have within organizations to make things happen for their ultimate customers. So as consultants, we look into that and we intervene in those structures of commitments or networks of commitments and how people develop better and more powerful skills to make better and more powerful commitments, basically. So I went to Mexico 32 years ago, and I originally was going for 1 year, but that turned to be 9 years in the end. Met the woman that is today still my wife, and had my children there. Then we moved to the U.S. when that company got sold to to an Irish company. But that Irish company asked me to move to the New York office, and I started working in the U.S. back then. That was funny. This is kind of a fun fact. Well, not so fun, but it's a fact that my first day on the job was the Monday prior to 9/11. So just about 24 years ago, right? So my second day at the job was 9/11. So what a surprise. And with my limited English, I could not really understand what was going on. I could not comprehend in my limited English at the time how come an airplane could have crashed onto the towers. But then when we found a TV at the office that I were at, I was in Minnesota, of all places. I saw the images, and then I really came to see that no one could understand what was going on. It wasn't just me. So it was not a language barrier. It was more like a human barrier.
Yeah.
Human understanding barrier. So anyways, fast forward, I did that job for 6 years or so, and then I decided to get more real job experience instead of being a consultant. So I got hired by a company, a manufacturing company, as internal OD director for Europe. So I moved to Barcelona, and I lived in Barcelona for a number of years. Then came back with the same company, but I got upgraded to being the global director of organizational development at the time, which meant basically that I lived in Houston because we moved back to Houston or back to the States, but to Houston. And my job was never in Houston, which meant that I was traveling all the time. And after a few years of that, I decided my kids need to get to know their father before they go to college. So I left. I decided to leave that company, start my own practice. And that practice, I decided I didn't want to work by myself. I didn't want to be an independent consultant. So I looked for people to work with, and I found the people that are today my partners in my company. My company is called The Intelligence Group, and we are basically in the same kind of business that I was before, which is helping organizations improve the quality of their work and the inspiration they have to do what they do for their clients through change and innovation, that sort of thing. So that was 10 years ago, almost. Actually, today, the 15th of September, was my last day at that particular job before. So it's been 10 years now that I became an independent or an entrepreneur, really. And then when I was doing that, I started looking into Houston because I was living in Houston. I had been living in Houston for a number of years, but I really didn't know Houston. I didn't really know anybody in Houston. So I started looking for groups to network with, people to network with, and I discovered HODN, the Houston Organizational Development Network, and I thought, well, by affinity, I thought, okay, this is the group that would be best fitted for me, in particular my interests and such. And I discovered that it was the case, actually. I started joining some of the events that the group organized. And I discovered that HODN is all about promoting the learning and practice of organizational development. And that is my core, my love, my passion. So that's why I stayed here. And it's not a group that promotes individuals or businesses, or we don't accept sponsorships either. So it's all about learning and cultivating the discipline of organizational development. That's what I love about this group. We have a core team of about 6 people, including myself, and that's the group of passionate, dedicated people who are members of the board of HODN. I think I already jumped into more of the questions about the organization and all that. So
Totally fine. And that's where we're going today. So it naturally flowed there. As I'm thinking, because my background's in talent development, coming out of training, work development's very, normal to me. For those of our audience members that maybe don't come from that same world, how would you give an example of how they might see org development in a company? Because some of our members are authors and comedians, speakers, coaches, and as a way to maybe even consultants earn more of revenue if they do this, or just to understand who belongs in comes to HODN. So org development, any kind of explanation about what that is or how they might see it to help them make sense of it?
there are a couple of different ways to speak about organizational development. The way I choose to is organizational development is about producing lasting change in organizations that are aligned with the culture and the strategic direction of the organization. Now, to achieve that, there are different tools that are at our disposal, but I think we combine aspects of training and development, for example, or talent management, with more structural aspects of how people work together, and that I call that process design and redesign. And that also is supported by tools of different kind, and as well as coaching, because we actually have to coach people to change their ways of working in practice. Many times we combine executive coaching with group coaching to kind of align leadership with their teams and that sort of thing. But also, as I said, that is supported by different tools. We have certain tools that we have created for our own benefit our own practice, we created a culture assessment tool a few years ago, which we have used with maybe 15 or 16 clients around Houston or different parts of the country, actually. And that has been very successful in providing our clients with a picture of what their cultural strengths are when looking at their strategic objectives. So if they want to go in this direction, their culture may either support that or hinder progress in that direction. So that's where we intervene and touch the culture of the organization in a way such that people begin developing a better understanding as to why the company is going in that direction, what is that direction, what are the benefits of going there, etc. So we combine that with more traditional change management tools and practices like stakeholder assessments or change readiness assessments, etc. We have developed different courses that we do for our clients as well, like change readiness course that supports people better understanding of where the change is going, what's in it for them, how to better get on top of the change as opposed to suffering the change or being subjected to the change, that sort of thing. And a couple of other things that, as I mentioned before, in terms of process design. Process design has everything to do with the structure of commitments that drive value to deliver to a customer in the end. But it's based on individual people's commitments. So whenever you find a business situation whereby something is not flowing, usually it's because someone did make a promise but is not delivering on that promise, or nobody has made a promise for that particular thing to happen. So things get stuck there, right? So through a series of diagnostic practices, we identify what commitments might be missing or what commitments may not be being delivered on. And we help people see that situation and really deliver or build the commitment to do that. So that's that probably is a longer answer than what you were looking for, but that's how I speak
No,
about organizational development. Now,
no,
people come to us to HODN from very different angles. We have had a bunch of very solid people in talent management, for example. We have a good number of coaches, individual coaches, with a lot of experience with the executive coaching as well as group coaching. We also have had a number of the majority. I would say the majority of people that I know, at least, that are part of the community, are coming from industrial organizational psychology backgrounds. But not everybody. Like in my case, I met a bunch of engineers that have no psychology background. I have met even musicians that have nothing in common with the rest of us in terms of background. So different walks of life coming together to basically look at organizations from different angles. And I think in the end, the beauty of organizational development, as opposed to ATD, for example, or the ICF, is that we look at organizations from very many different angles, not just one. And
no, I
we
love that.
bring those talents together to bear in terms of producing the change that we are looking to produce.
I thought the definition that you explained was perfect, and it hopefully painted a picture for our audience, especially for those that attend our joint happy hours in the past, where HODN, ICF, which is the Coaching Federation, ATD, it's the Talent Development Group. Then we've also worked with an Association for Change Management. So I hope you're seeing in the audience how much all of that's why these groups were all working together. Now, I think, like you said, working the different walks of life. How do you think NSA Houston and HODN could work together and really create some value for both members and organizations?
Well, I think there's a big overlap between NSA and HODN. The way a former president of NSA put it to me, actually, that was during COVID when I first learned about NSA. The president was Jill Hickman. The NSA president was Jill Hickman, at the time a good friend of mine. And she put it to me this way: you all speak for a living. You should also be part of NSA.
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Simple,
So
right? Nice and
very
simple.
very simple, and very true. Um,
Hmm.
so from my perspective, because of my ontological background, the ontological design background, we focus very much on language and how we use language to create reality rather than using language only to describe what's here and there. We also use language to create, to invent the future. So when you say, meet me tomorrow at 3 p.m. For this conversation, we are not describing something that already happened. We're creating something that will happen in the future. So the language has that power. And when you say, I am so and so, you're not describing yourself in terms of features of your body or anything like that. You're inventing a persona in the space of conversation with someone else. So we as OD professionals, we speak for a living. Therefore, there's a lot of overlap between what we do and NSA in particular. And the other way around, I think most speakers who do not only speak for a living, so uh, in your case, when you coach someone, for example, you are speaking obviously, but you can also find ways to help individuals change not only themselves but also the environment within which they work. So I think that's our focus as OD professionals. We do not only focus on the individual, but also in the individual's, what's the word, surrounding, if you will, or situation. Because when you, as a coach, for example, when I coach an individual, I can work with that individual and help that individual change their way of doing things. But when they go back to work, they go back to the same situation, the same environment. And over time, we all readapt to the same ways of working. So if you do not affect the environment, then you have very little chance for that change that you have produced in the individual to last.
Oh, I love that. And it puts so simply because I worked in corporations and I've seen change not last. I've seen it come in. Earlier, you talked about when it's happening to you. Yeah, that's why I was laughing because I've definitely seen that where you're not part of it. So it's more pushed onto you. And I think too, if you're listening, you're part of NSA Houston, what you can do to get involved is join HODN, check out their meetings. I'm on their mailing list, so I see the meetings come up. So get involved because there's so much opportunity here in Houston. And just no matter what career path you are architecting for your career or yourself, if you're in a company or own your own, that there's lots of opportunities to get into connections with people that might help you along your journey. I also think what you're talking about, Ricardo, is what it makes me think of is storytelling. NSA Houston, we talk about storytelling from a stage, and I think that creates change also. So how do you tell a story of, hey, this is art, this is coming? How do we, well, make a lasting change for that environment that you mentioned? So just another thing off the top of my head, we do have webinars online. So those are brand new this year. So if anybody from HODN or beyond wants to kind of tie into to some more knowledge, our mailing list is free. So join and see what comes available. If it's of interest, great. We welcome you. Reach out to one of us and we're happy to join. And then Ricardo, I don't know about you, but we also attend and our board is very active on joining ATD Houston stuff. I know the conference is going on this week. So lots of opportunities to get connected. All right, as our last question, Ricardo, well, it's a little bit of a fun one just to get to know you with our audience. What is a secret talent that maybe not a lot of people know, but that you're proud of and wouldn't mind sharing?
Well, that's, I don't know. I'm not sure I have any. um, there are two things that come to mind. One is I went to architecture school way back when, um, for two reasons. One, I was good with math, and two, I was good at drawing. So I don't have any drawings handy, but I used to draw quite a bit and paint a little bit. I didn't paint too much. It was mostly drawings with charcoal and that sort of thing. Um, and I used to, when I was still in Chile, to gift my drawings to my friends and for their birthdays or things like that. So I didn't keep many of them. Um, but so that's one. And the second one is tennis. I picked up tennis just before COVID in 2019 or something like that, playing with a friend of mine here, whose son and mine were classmates in high school. So when the kids went to school and came back for the first summer, they were just laying in bed for hours and hours and hours and days. And this guy calls me up one day, says, "Hey, let's drag these kids out of bed and do something." And because of the availability of tennis courts here in the Woodlands, we said, "Okay, let's go play tennis." "Have you ever played tennis?" "No, me neither." "Okay, well, let's go play." So we started playing tennis that way, and then the kids went back to school, and we said, well, let's keep playing. So let's learn or do something. And now we have a group of about 20 guys. We get together a couple times a week to play, and sometimes on the weekends, and just for fun. We don't compete. It's just a bunch of old guys telling jokes and laughing at each other's bad strokes and things like that. So
Oh, those are awesome, especially because it's just getting to know a little bit more of the human side. But, Ricardo, we've known each other for a couple of years now, given my role at NSA Houston and beyond. But yeah, I didn't even know that about you. But I'm glad you're out there and active. And I have to commend you for saying, I don't know how to play tennis, but I'm just going to try and we're going to figure it out.
well, yeah, I guess that was the old dev in me.
There you go. This is a nice loop. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Tune in next time for another President's Podcast with another strategically picked president to open the doors up for you, our members at NSA Houston and HODN, along with everyone else we've been working with across Houston and the United States. And actually, there's a little bit of the FIFA stuff going on too. So let's go international as well as it comes to Houston early next year. All right, thanks again. Tune in next time. We'll see you then.